Hello, Healthy Connection study partners. We've prepared this really quick video to help you get started on your project. We just have a few things that we want to share with you that we weren't able to get through during our training that we think might be helpful to you as you get started. So as we mentioned in the training, you might want to think about doing this in a team. We suggest that you have 3 to 4 individuals as part of your team. They could be part of your senior or mid-level management. They could be programmatic people, community volunteer. We also heard during the training thinking about different learning styles or different philosophic viewpoints that people may have. You will know best who to engage in your team, but we do suggest that you engage a team because people see different things about your work that might be useful to you. We suggest that you ask people to prepare a little bit before coming to a team meeting. You might want to share the tool with them and just have them jot some thoughts about each of the domains, each of the questions prior to meeting with you. And then we suggest that you meet together and go through all of these items. We anticipate that people will have different ratings and different perspectives. That's really where the richness of the process will come through. So we're hoping that as a team, you can come up with a shared agreement on how you want to rate yourselves and submit to us using the SurveyMonkey link that we'll provide to you. So that's how we suggest you assemble your team and get started.
One thing that I wanted to note from the orientation we had earlier is that board members were also suggested to, that could be maybe one of your community partners. And so if you feel like that would be helpful, board members can be on that list as well. So here are some tips and tricks that we're suggesting by way of organizing yourself to do the process. As Tahoot mentioned, you might want to send out the PDF of the tool so people can take some notes. And so when you come back together, we were thinking perhaps you could have a group meeting or use a standing meeting. We heard from participants at the orientation that they already thought of what meetings to go to. Some were like, well, maybe we'll take a chunk at weekly meetings through January to help with that. You also might find it, because of how your organization operates, that you might want to have one-on-one conversations with people that might require you to then figure out how to put all that information together to send as kind of one organizational assessment. But you might also have one-on-one conversations and then bring people together to build some sort of consensus. So we leave it really up to you to figure out how you would like to gather your team together to come to some sort of agreement about how we see our organization and our organizational practices. We're giving you a PDF that is fillable, so that's a way to take notes. Ultimately, you won't be sending the PDFs back to us. We will create a SurveyMonkey link where your final organizational practice assessment can be entered. And that's how you're going to get whatever you guys come up with to us. And because there's going to be a peer review scoring process, we would love for this information to be as anonymous as possible. We will do some redacting if we feel like, well, that's very obvious that organization is talking about that very unique thing. So in any case, when you're thinking about entering the information, you could be, I suppose, vague if you think that that's a way to keep your information anonymous.
And just a quick note, this slide says Google Forms, but we have since decided to use SurveyMonkey, so that's what you can expect to get from us. As Jennifer said, we're gonna go through a peer review process. We're gonna anonymize, if that's a word, your information before we send it to one of your peers. So as a participating organization, you can expect to get information of one other organization that's doing this pilot with us. You're going to receive their responses and their self-ratings. So it'll look something like this, where you'll see all of their written narrative, probably in one text box, and then you'll see how they rated themselves. And then you as the reviewer will then read the information and decide for yourself if the rating that they give themselves is the same one that you would give them, you will also enter your own. So in other words, you'll enter your own rating of their description of that practice. And then we also would love for you to give some written responses on some strengths that you see in the organization. And then maybe you have some really good ideas on how they can improve the work that they're describing to you. We anticipate that there'll be a lot of cross-pollination and a lot of ideas being shared across organizations. We saw that already happening in the training. So we really encourage you to be generous in your suggestions and your feedback on strengths to your peers.
So immediate next steps. First thing we need for you to do is to submit invoice to Tahoot from whoever does that in your organization. There is a stipend. It's $1,000 for your organization. And so it just needs to say something about the organizational equity practices pilot, some verbiage to that effect. You'll also, by the end of December, receive the SurveyMonkey link that we've been talking about, and the revised PDF of the tool. You should have received the draft version as we were getting ready for the orientation session. Lots of great feedback. It's going to change slightly, so you'll get the final version at some point next week. Then for January, that's when you would assemble your team. You would do your own version of an orientation session, letting people know what they're getting in for, and then asking them to maybe look at the tool, take their own notes, and then however you're gonna gather people to hear from them. All of that would be great to happen by January 20th. That's when the SurveyMonkey filled out link is due to us, so that we can prepare your packets for the peer review process. And so by the end of January, by the 31st, that's when you'll receive your packets. It will probably be in some SurveyMonkey form as well. That's when you'll go through, you'll have one organization that you're going to read through and give them some feedback. That should happen at some point in February, between February 1st and February 28th. Then we will return back to you that feedback. So as we collect that information, by March 15th, you'll get the peer review feedback about what they have to say about your equity practices. And so the final stage in this is then we'll pull everybody together. You'll have looked at your feedback, you'll have survived the process, and then we can debrief about, okay, what about this went well? Where were there some challenges? And then what recommendations would you have for the final way for this to be implemented in other organizations?
And we just end by saying thank you for being a part of this. This is a pilot. It's experimental for us. We're super excited about this concept. So we're grateful that you're willing to come along for the ride. Thank you so much.
Thank you.